No, the things that we said that if we're going to write this memoir, we would not cut anything out. It would include the highs and the lows, everything. The whole world was stunned when the truth about the couple once seen as television's most perfect pair was exposed. Drew Scott, the man always appearing with a bright smile, once cried and begged his wife not to divorce him simply because he couldn't give her a child after years of failed treatments. But I was depressed. I was extremely depressed, and financial problems are one of the biggest causes of depression, and so that I claimed bankruptcy, and then immediately that's when we started looking at, well, do we want to do something else? Do we want to look at doing some real estate on the side, more real estate on the side? Behind their seemingly happy image were 4 years of hell filled with tears, depression, and secrets never revealed before. Stay until the end of this video to learn what truly happened during those 4 years of torment and the ending that left all of Hollywood speechless. Their 2018 wedding in Italy was considered the pinnacle of Drew Scott and Linda Phan's love story. The media described it as a fairy tale wedding between a famous television star and the woman who had always supported him behind the scenes. No one imagined that only weeks later everything would begin to fall apart. During their honeymoon, Linda Phan suddenly fell ill. Test results revealed she had Graves' disease, a thyroid disorder that severely affects fertility. Doctors clearly stated that her chance of natural conception was almost zero. The devastating news shocked them both as they had planned to start a family within their first year of marriage. Drew Scott immediately canceled all filming schedules and took his wife for treatment in Los Angeles. Hormone regulation caused Linda Phan to lose weight, suffer hair loss, and experience prolonged insomnia. Without saying a word, Drew Scott began to sense a distance forming between them. The home, once filled with laughter, was now covered in silence. From 2019 onward, they began the exhausting journey of fertility treatment with only faint hope. 3 consecutive IVF cycles failed. Linda Phan had to inject hormones daily, leaving her body swollen and sore. Each night, Drew Scott administered the injections, struggling to stay composed while tears streamed down his face as she collapsed from exhaustion. They continued to appear on television filming Property Brothers as if nothing had changed. But when the cameras stopped, Linda Phan often cried alone in the bathroom. The pressure from work media and fans' expectations pushed her to the brink. Drew Scott later admitted that he had never seen Linda so fragile. By the end of 2020, Linda Phan told her husband she wanted to stop trying. The words, "I think we should stop," left Drew Scott speechless. He didn't react, remaining silent for days. They still lived together, but barely spoke. The smiling images seen on television were merely a facade covering a marriage on the verge of collapse. Paparazzi noticed the change and began following them around the clock. Rumors of divorce due to infertility spread quickly across entertainment outlets. Linda Phan endured harsh criticism from tabloids labeling her as unable to have children while Drew Scott was accused of looking for someone new. The public unknowingly pushed them into a psychological breakdown. In a short interview, Drew Scott deliberately avoided questions about having children. At the time, he had considered adoption, but couldn't bring himself to mention it for fear of hurting his wife. Linda Phan learned about it through friends and felt like a burden to her famous husband. She fell into deep depression, began taking medication, and stopped all creative work. Family members revealed that Linda Phan went weeks without leaving the house. Drew Scott took her to therapy sessions, joined counseling meetings, and tried to keep their routine steady. He once said, "I was afraid to come home one day and not find her there anymore." The statement reflected the desperation they both endured during their darkest period. Their silence only fueled public curiosity. Paparazzi photos showed a gaunt Drew Scott and Linda Phan hiding from cameras under hats and masks. Surrounded by fame and wealth, they were lonelier than ever. Entering 2021, Linda Phan gradually regained balance through long-term therapy. She learned to accept that motherhood was not the measure of her worth. Drew Scott also began recovering, cutting back on work, and focusing on his wife's health. A photo of them holding hands at a year-end event in 2021 marked one of their rare public appearances after months away from the spotlight. But when it seemed their personal pain had reached its end, another crisis, larger and quieter, began to unfold within their career. Behind-the-scenes conspiracy before becoming the icons of HGTV, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott went through a bitter failure in business. They invested in a real estate chain in Canada, but were deceived by a partner, losing more than $500,000. The brothers were forced to sell their cars and cut all expenses just to survive. The incident left them nearly bankrupt. Drew Scott admitted that during that period he once thought about leaving the entertainment industry. Jonathan Scott, on the other hand, remained firm in his belief that they could start again if they worked harder. That crisis period became the foundation for the resilience they later built upon. After overcoming financial difficulties, they signed a production contract with Cinix, the company responsible for the Property Brothers series. At first, the collaboration went smoothly, but in 2015, conflicts began to emerge when Cineflex demanded a 50% cut in profits from the spin-off versions. Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott believed the demand was unfair since most of the creative work and filming were handled by them. The brothers filed a lawsuit against Cineflex, initiating a 3-year legal process. It was considered the largest contract dispute in HGTV's history, involving tens of millions of dollars. Court documents revealed that between 2016 and 2018, the brothers had to personally cover a large portion of the production costs to keep Property Brothers on air. Although the lawsuit was ongoing, they continued launching new projects to maintain their public image. When the legal battle with Cineflex had not ended, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott faced another threat. In 2018, HGTV executives were reportedly considering finding a new pair of brothers to replace them, aiming to reduce production costs and salaries. An internal source revealed that Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott reacted strongly, even threatening to leave HGTV. The negotiation lasted for months and concluded with a golden contract that doubled their previous salary and granted them greater control over program content. The tension did not stop there. From 2021 to 2025, their brand Scott Living, the furniture company founded by the brothers, became entangled in a series of lawsuits related to product quality. Customers complained that sofas deteriorated after only 6 months of use and demanded compensation. A group of consumers filed a class action lawsuit, severely damaging Scott Living's reputation. Media coverage intensified, forcing Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott to issue a public apology and promise to improve their production process. Sales dropped sharply in the first half of 2023. Luxury projects under the Dream Homes brand valued at $2.4 million faced technical flaws. A homeowner reported a leaking roof only months after moving in. The brothers spent hundreds of thousands to repair damages and protect their reputation. Financial documents showed Scott Living owed $1.2 million to Chinese suppliers due to late payments. The company halted international expansion and prioritized fixing domestic issues within the Property Brothers team. Disagreements between Drew and Jonathan grew intense. A former producer claimed they almost fought on set over creative control and finances, spreading rumors across the industry. Afterward, Drew took a short break to recover mentally while Jonathan led production. When Drew returned, he appeared more composed, focusing on long-term plans and stability. Things began to change in 2019 when the lawsuit with Cineflex concluded under a confidential settlement. Under the agreement, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott were granted full ownership of the Property Brothers brand. The decision marked a significant turning point, ending a decade-long conflict. The deal was regarded as the biggest secret in HGTV history. It transformed them from employees into the full owners of all content rights and revenue related to the series. This became the starting point for the most prosperous era of their careers. After a series of upheavals, the brothers finally gained total control of their brand. They no longer depended on producers or the network, becoming the sole decision-makers of Property Brothers. That transformation elevated them to a new level within the entertainment industry. From the chaos of lawsuits and betrayal, they accomplished what no one expected, turning failure into the launching pad for the greatest comeback in HGTV history, rebirth from the ashes. After concluding the dispute with Cineflex, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott officially gained full control over the Property Brothers franchise. The confidential agreement signed in 2019 marked the greatest turning point in their careers. For the first time, they became the true owners of a brand once dependent on outside producers. Gaining autonomy allowed the brothers to shape their content business and brand strategies independently. They founded Scott Brothers Global, merging all divisions, television, retail, and real estate under one management system. The goal was to build an entertainment and business empire with global reach. Immediately after signing the deal, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott restructured Property Brothers into new branches such as Forever Home Buying and Selling and Celebrity IOU. These shows quickly attracted tens of millions of viewers, helping HGTV maintain its position as the leading home renovation network. The fifth season of Property Brothers, aired in 2015, reached more than 10 million viewers in the U.S. The real breakthrough came with a very Brady renovation in 2019, drawing 28 million viewers, a record that remains unbroken in HGTV history. This was proof of their enduring appeal. Success on television paved the way for business expansion. The Scott Living brand grew rapidly with thousands of home products sold in major retail chains such as Lowe's, Costco, and Amazon. Annual revenue was estimated at $500 million, making it the company's main financial pillar. Beyond furniture, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott expanded into building materials, home decor, and household goods. They focused on sustainability and environmental friendliness to align with modern consumer trends. This strategy helped Scott Living recover its reputation after the 2021 lawsuit. From 2022 onward, Scott Brothers Global invested heavily in digital content. They developed their own platforms on YouTube and podcasts while producing online renovation shows. Their multi-channel presence expanded their younger audience base and strengthened global brand recognition. Drew Scott took charge of financial and commercial operations, while Jonathan Scott oversaw creative production. The clear division of roles helped them avoid previous internal conflicts. Each focused on personal strengths while maintaining unity in their overall strategy. By 2023, each brother's net worth had reached about $100 million, placing them among the most influential figures in reality television. Forbes ranked Scott Brothers Global among the world's top 50 most valuable personal brands. Alongside financial success, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott continued to dominate television. Celebrity IOU, the show they launched in 2020, quickly became one of HGTV's most watched series. Its 10th season, premiering in 2025, maintained stable viewership numbers. Special episodes featuring stars such as Brad Pitt, Viola Davis, and Kris Jenner continuously attracted media attention. Their ability to blend emotion with renovation expertise was seen as the most effective formula for retaining audiences in the genre. Parallel to television, the brothers expanded into publishing and e-commerce. Their book, Builder Brothers, Better Together, became a bestseller in the U.S., translated into more than 10 languages. Over 1 million copies sold, confirming their influence beyond television. Drew Scott once stated that their ultimate goal was not just to make money, but to control the legacy of their brand. Owning all rights allowed them to determine every direction without relying on any network or producer. It was considered an unprecedented achievement in HGTV history. Scott Brothers Global also built partnerships with fashion, travel, and technology brands. These collaborations formed a multi-industry business ecosystem, rapidly increasing the company's value within a few years. Investors viewed it as one of the most sustainable personal brand models in the world. By 2024, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott signed a new long-term contract with HGTV, but this time they retained full control of production and distribution. All content belonged entirely to them, while HGTV only served as a distributor. This ensured full profit retention and complete creative independence. Entering 2025, the Scott Brothers empire reached an estimated valuation of $200 million. From television hosts, they had become producers, entrepreneurs, and creative icons of modern television. Their rise was considered a prime example of resilience after crisis. Even after extraordinary success, Drew Scott and Jonathan Scott remained humble. They often reminded others that every achievement began during the hardest period when they almost lost everything. This mindset helped them maintain a positive and relatable public image. Their career was not only the story of two individuals, but also a model showing how artists could become independent executives in television. Full control allowed them to break old limitations and redefine the role of a content creator. With fame and power firmly in their hands, they chose to slow down to rediscover the true meaning of happiness after more than a decade of turbulence. Happiness after the storm. After years of hardship, Drew Scott and Linda Phan entered 2025 in a rare period of peace. Their family now has 2 children, Parker 3 and Piper 1. The second child's birth carried special meaning as Linda conceived naturally after 6 years of infertility. They described the moment they learned of Linda's pregnancy as a true miracle. Drew Scott said he burst into tears when the doctor confirmed the result. The new baby brought not only joy, but also restored Linda's confidence. After years of treatment and struggle, Linda's health improved steadily. She recovered fully from Graves' disease, maintaining a balanced diet and exercise routine. Drew reduced over 30% of his filming schedule, dedicating most of his time to his family and daily routines at home. The couple chose a quieter lifestyle, limiting public appearances, and focusing on raising their children and managing personal projects. Their home environment was built around balance away from the pressure of constant media attention. In interviews, Drew said fatherhood had completely changed his perspective on life. He considered family harmony his greatest achievement after years of fame and work stress. Linda also became more active in community initiatives. Since 2023, they have donated millions to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, supporting children with serious illnesses. They also created a fund for couples facing infertility, offering financial help and emotional counseling. These actions helped rebuild their image in the public eye. Their podcast, At Home with Linda and Drew Scott, continued to grow, reaching millions of listeners each month. It explored topics like marriage balance, mental health, and parenthood. Honest conversations turned it into a source of comfort for many families. Many believed the couple had stepped away from the spotlight while Drew and Jonathan Scott were quietly preparing a new venture. In 2025, reports revealed they were building a $35 million family resort in Hawaii. Documents showed the complex would include villas, a wellness center, and a creative arts hub. Designed as a private retreat with limited VIP access, it quickly drew investor attention when construction photos surfaced online. Close sources said the resort would also serve as a backdrop for a new reality series. Drew planned to blend architecture, lifestyle, and emotional renewal in one project, a step to redefine their brand's identity. At the same time, Drew and Jonathan signed a production deal with Netflix, announced in early 2025. The project's details remained confidential. Some reports suggested it would be a large-scale renovation show with a global reach extending far beyond traditional television. Netflix confirmed that Scott Brothers Global would produce and retain full creative control. The partnership allowed them to remain independent from HGTV while expanding their presence worldwide. Industry analysts viewed the Netflix deal as a defining moment in their career. It transitioned the brothers from cable television to international streaming, opening new growth and profit potential. Drew said the aim was not just to expand their audience, but to explore new storytelling about architecture and emotion. Linda joined the production as creative director, focusing on humanity and personal experience in every episode. Beyond their work, the family maintained active involvement in charity and environmental programs. They believe true success comes from making a positive impact on others. On social media, the couple often shared simple family-centered images. Linda embraced a down-to-earth image, leaving behind her glamorous designer persona to embody a modern, relatable mother. By 2025, the Netflix series and Hawaii resort became part of a broader plan for global expansion. The couple expressed their commitment to growing meaningful projects while protecting family privacy. From despair to triumph, Drew Scott and Linda Phan endured illness, infertility, bankruptcy lawsuits, and moments of near collapse. Those struggles built the strength that led them to a complete family, a stable career, and a bright future. A true testament to resilience and renewal. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode where Hollywood's deepest secrets will continue to be revealed.